The Central Bank of Nigeria, that is the Apex Bank, has issued a directive saying that deposit money banks, that is DMBs, and international money transfer operators are expected to pay all diaspora remittances in Naira going forward. And that has, caused increased conversation, especially across Nigeria's economic space. And we thought to ask Nigerians their thoughts on that development. And we did put out a social media poll asking Nigerians to share their thoughts as the CBN has authorized banks and international money transfer operators to pay all diaspora remittances in Naira. And we did ask, what are your thoughts on this development? And we did get quite a number of responses. Let's take a look at some of the feedback that we did get from social media users. Let's start with the first comment that we did receive, with Dan Gaske saying, this will help strengthen the Naira. This will help strengthen the Naira. Thank you, Dan, for sending in your comment. Moving away from Dan's comment now, who else did we hear from regarding, the development that the Central Bank of Nigeria has issued a directive to deposit money banks as well as international money transfer operators to pay all diaspora remittances in Naira. Nigerians have spoken regarding this development, sharing their thoughts on social media. Ahmad Ishaq is saying it is a very good move by the Central Bank of Nigeria, considering the economic crisis we are in, especially the downfall of the Naira notes, which plays a significant impact in the price hike of the most daily used items. And doing this may reduce these price woes and upgrade the Naira over the other foreign currencies. Thank you, Ahmed, for sending in your comment. And while you watch this, keep engaging and sending in more of your comment. And we do hope to, highlight your comments on the program. And Godwin Oloko is saying that crude oil should be sold in Naira too. Interesting comment right there by Godwin Oloko. Away from this comment, Oliver Oluwafemi is saying, very happy with that. And this will make a Naira gain appreciation in the exchange market. Most Nigerians seem to be very impressed with this development by the Central Bank of Nigeria. But Igwe Alexander is saying it's true that the CBN is making that policy for the good of the Naira, but the Apex Bank is at the same time encroaching into people's rights. If I have and want my money in dollars, I should be able to get it as such. That's how it's done in every other country. We understand that that's how it's done in every other country, but I'd like for us to note that the challenges that Nigeria faces are quite peculiar to Nigeria. But let's move away now from Igwe Alexander's comment. Prince Suleiman Ola is saying, the best decision so far. I salute the Central Bank of Nigeria governor. You are great. Kudos to the CBN governor, Yemi Kodoso, right there from Prince Suleiman. Moving away from that comment now, Abdul is saying, our Naira will appreciate. Fingers crossed. I mean, we've seen quite a number of efforts by the CBN to strengthen the Naira and increase and reduce liquidity. And we do hope and believe that this is going to be, this is the right step in the right direction. Aliyu Hamza Umar is saying this means there will be increased demand for the Naira. Thank you, Aliyu, for sending in your comment. Moving away from Aliyu's comment now, Ibrahim is saying, wishing and praying this will make the Naira gain more and more value. I believe you're speaking the minds of most Nigerians. We do hope and wish that that really does happen. Musa Alaji is saying, that's interested. I believe he wanted to write interesting. That's interesting and in good direction. So strengthen the Naira at international markets. Indeed, that is the end goal. And we do hope and believe that that does happen. And those are all the comments that we will be highlighting this morning. And indeed, most of the Nigerians seem to be, seem to see this directive as a positive one, a positive step, hopefully in the positive direction as well. But we do have someone to, lend more light on this development by the Central Bank of Nigeria. We are joined now by an economic analyst, Steve Nwachukwu. Thank you, Mr. Steve, for joining us on Business Daily this morning.
Good morning and thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. You have heard from Nigerians. Most of them seem to be pleased by the directive by the Central Bank of Nigeria, of course, regarding that deposit money banks and international money transfer operators should pay all diaspora remittances in the Naira going forward. But you are the professional here. I mean, we can dance and say hula baloo all we want, but we want to hear from you now. What are your thoughts on these developments from the CBN?
First and foremost, I think we'll have to commend the leadership of the CBN. From time to time, they've always come out with one or two policies and policy decisions. In the context of this decision or circular, have in mind that every circular or the series of circular memos, policy statements, and what have you that have been dished out by the Central Bank of Nigeria think towards making sure that we have some level of sense of stability in our exchange market, and they are also made to galvanize this very scarce forest to meet the demand or rising demand in our forest market. That is the intention of that circular or any other memo or policy statements that have always come out from the Central Bank of Nigeria. So that's my belief, that the intention is to make sure that we have some sense of stability and some level of availability or governance these very resources or governance these very forests in our forest market to meet the rising demand on a daily basis. Having said that, now perhaps we may look at the merit and demerit of such circular, in particular the one that was released yesterday or the one in question, a directive to the international monetary or transfer managers, operators, and other deposit banks who also have the license to operate in that very cadre, to desist from paying individuals or any other diaspora remittances in dollar or in foreign currency. So that's simply what that circular means. If you can turn it around or perhaps rephrase it, it simply means we have therefore banned you from paying foreign currencies to anyone who legitimately earned his forest and remitted it to perhaps keep for storage or perhaps to do any transaction in the shores of Nigeria. That's simply what that memo means. It means that CBN has sent forth ban all international monetary transfer agents or operators from paying people in hard currencies. That's simply what it means. And perhaps the perception aspect of it is where we have the demerit. But does it have the merit of galvanizing this forest, making it available to those who actually need it? Yes, it has that merit of making sure that the inflows of this very forest go to the right places. Thank you.
You have spoken, the minds of most economic analysts, but let me ask you, is this by any means encroaching on the rights of the people to, choose what it is that they want, in the sense that, I might want to get paid. I probably have worked and I'm expecting to get paid in foreign currency, but because of this directive by the CBN, I am then paid in Naira. But the question now is this by any means encroaching on the rights of the people?
Of course it does. Of course it does in many ways. When I rephrase that name, I use the word, those who have earned this money legitimately. I have worked or I have done any transaction that earned me hard-earned currency, be it British pounds or US dollar or any other currency. And this directive of the CBN is that any remittance of such nature, it must be terminated in Naira, meaning do not pay me dollar. Do not pay me any of these hard currencies which I legitimately earn it. Whether it's my cousin abroad, my son abroad, or my sister abroad, or whosoever who sent that money to me. You are just giving a directive that I should not receive it in that hard-earned currency. So perhaps it also infringes in the right of such individuals who have legitimately earned it. But like I said, that is where the demerit is, and it has a wrong perception. Perhaps it can also lead to some isolation of this very influx of this very forest. Have in mind, I think I should come from this perspective so that we can have a broader understanding of what it means. Currencies of the world has two major functions. First is the medium of exchange, and the second is a store of value. Now, medium of exchange can be restricted within territorial bands, like perhaps like as it's practiced here in Nigeria, you don't use dollar, it's not an official medium of exchange. Naira is the only official medium of exchange. Now that is taken off. Then the aspect of store of value. I don't think there is any law forbidding any Nigerian who earns this dollar or earn any of the hard currencies of you making use of this very second function of the currency, which is the store of value. So I could earn it, I could send it to my family, and I could ask them keep it when I come back. So it means that they cannot withdraw or have this money until I come back. Even if I come back, if the law still persists, it means that I can still have it in that form, in that hard currency, or whether British pounds or dollar, that which I have sent it. So that's what it means. It means that that aspect of store of value has been taken off, because the clause says, or the regulation or the circular says, every remittance of diaspora payment should be terminated in Naira. Thank you.
Well, just like Mr. Steve has stated, usually, people would rather save in foreign currency to hedge against inflation, but that seems to be changing moving forward. But let's go on a short break. When we return, the conversation continues, and Steve Nwachukwu, who is an economic analyst, is still on standby to stay. And this is still Business Daily, coming to you live on Trust TV. Just before the break, we started a conversation on the directive by the Central Bank of Nigeria asking deposit money banks and international money transfer operators to pay all diaspora remittances in Naira going forward. And I still have my guest with me, who is an economic analyst, Mr. Steve Nwachukwu. Thank you again, Mr. Steve, for coming on the program today.
My pleasure.
Okay, we have spoken about the demerits, especially, of this directive or policy from the CBN. But let us now highlight the merit, I believe, especially in the area of the impact on the Naira liquidity and, the impact on diaspora remittances. Do you foresee this impacting, the amount of diaspora remittances that we have seen, in a while now? Or do you expect for this to encourage more remittances through formal channels going forward?
Well, expectedly, I think it should. Expectedly, it should. If there is a sort of understanding around the intention of this very circular or policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Like I said, it is well intended, but the perception around it may hinder or may reduce also the intended inflows of forex that is expected. So that's where the challenge is. It has the merits, like I said earlier, to galvanize and to give some sense of stability or sense of understanding of the exchange market, so that you don't have multiple channels or multiple exchange rate or possible rates that could be, offered by these international money transfer operators. It is within their purview also to determine the rates they can give to their client or to give to their customer. So I think with this, and it's going to be not only terminate in Naira, is going to terminate at the NAFEX exchange rate. So meaning that we are actually heading to that single exchange market unit where you will see every other rate converge at this very NAFEN or NAFEX exchange rate. So like I said, the merit is there and the intention is there right there in the merit, but the challenge is the perception. How would an average diasporan who is intending to send money over here view this very policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria? And for those who are not looking at keeping it as a store of value, like I said earlier, these are the two main functions of the exchange or currency: store of value and serves as a medium of exchange. Now, dollar is not an official exchange or official currency for Nigerian market, so it's prohibited for you to pay people with dollars, so it does not have any effect on that. So on the aspect of store of value, which anybody can choose what to store their values on, it may give them a wrong perception that I want to keep $1 million, I want to keep $1,000, I want to keep $100,000 till when I come back to embark on any project, I can't be able to do it. I can't be remitting the money gradually till it hits that $10,000, $50,000 or $100,000 in my savings or in my account, so that when I come back, I can embark on that building project, I can embark in that industrial project, I can embark in whatever business I intend to save that money for. So remember, the saving or store of value is totally wiped away. So it's now more of the perception of those diasporans, those are our cousins, our brothers, our sisters, our fathers, our mothers who live in UK, who live in New York, who live in China, who live in Asian countries, and the rest of them who are intending to send their hard-earned currencies. What is their perception about this restriction that the terminating value currency is Naira? So I don't know what will be the perception, but whatever be the perception, we tell what the effect of this very policy or circular of the central bank will be in our exchange market. But it's well intended. It was meant to galvanize these funds and make sure there is a proper check of the remittances, and there is also a value to it in the sense that nobody will be shortchanging Nigerians. Take, for instance, the popular international money transfer operators we have Western Union, we have MoneyGram, we have a good number of them, to mention but a few. Their prices and range of pricing can differ from point A to point B. But when you are terminating everything at NAFEX rate or NAFEN rate, it means also, yes, there may be some level of flexibility because NAFEM does not restrict prices. NAFEM is actually the ideas around the flotation, while the NAFEX is the average rates that have been traded in the day. So NAFEM, yes, they can still manipulate the prices around, but like I said earlier, the merit is there to galvanize this fund and give some sense of stability in our exchange market, so that CBN can also have an overview of the size of inflow and control of this very forest. When you are restricted from receiving it in cash, hard currency cash, it means that it goes directly to CBN, and CBN takes record of it. So it's quite an overview to have an overview of what inflows or the size of inflows into the shores of Nigeria. Quite a good measure, but the perception is where the real challenge is. Thank you.
You have mentioned repeatedly how, usually Nigerians in diaspora would want to, store value, and that is why they would rather save money in foreign currency. However, that seems to, that will be changing moving forward. But I would like for us to speak regarding the efforts of the CBN, especially in the area of inflation and inflation tightening. Usually we would want to hedge against inflation, and that is why people would rather gravitate towards, saving, like you stated, in foreign currency. But will this have, any impact on inflation and tightening inflation, especially since the CBN has, said over and over again as to how its major priority is the elephant in the room, that is inflation tightening measures?
Well, of course, in any of those policy tools or economic policy tools around inflation, this has nothing at all. It doesn't have a direct bearing. Let me not say it has nothing, but it doesn't have a direct bearing to control of inflation and all the rest. But the aftermath effects, yes, may be that once CBN can be able to galvanize these funds and direct and redirect them, and that's the main functions of the Central Bank of Nigeria. One of these is to direct flow of cash. Banks are there to receive this very money as deposits, and through the policy of the government, through the Minister of National Planning and Minister of Finance, in conjunction with Central Bank of Nigeria, their job is to direct the flow of these very resources. That is the work of the government. That's the work of the fiscal policy makers. If they want to focus on agricultural development, they can direct banks to start, improving in their lending to farmers or the industrial farmers. They can also, if government is looking at building capacity around local refineries, they will come up with policies and programs that will direct commercial banks to lend and increase their lending to oil marketers or oil operators. So this is how policies of governments are conducted. So if the government, through the Central Bank of Nigeria, is looking at having an overview of the inflows or inflow of forests, and to make sure they will harness it and direct it to where they actually want this forest to go. Take, for instance, I have $1 million I'm sending over to Nigeria to carry out one project or the other, and now I'm restricted from having it in cash. I am not going to malams in the street or the bureau de change to exchange it, where government cannot account where that money will end or the forest will end at the end of the day. But rather here now, if you terminate the transaction in Naira, it means that federal government through CBN has that money. So they can now meet other demands of the forest. Take, for instance, a man who is looking for one raw material or the other can now have that $1 million. That's simply what it means. That's why I said it helps to galvanize this very forest within the government control or CBN control, so that they can channel it to where the real demands are. So that's a very good advantage. But will it help to curtail the rising inflation? Yes, it will be a ripple effect or aftermath of this policy impact in the economy. Yes, when CBN is able to galvanize these resources or galvanize this forest and channel it to those manufacturers, to those importers who daily basis need this very money, and they get it at a very reasonable rate, it means that their product will be cheap. Once their product comes down, it means also that the inflationary factors or inflations will drop, because one of the major inflationary factors we witness in Nigeria is imported inflation. It's coming from those raw materials we import, from finished products or finished consumer goods that we import. So once you can have an exchange market that is friendly to these very commodities or friendly to importers, it will definitely reflect and reduce the rising inflation number. So it will at the long run, it will definitely at the long run have a definite effect on our inflationary number, but does not have a direct impact as we speak. Like I said, this very policy can also have its own counter effect in the economy, in the sense that if this diasporans who sends this money now have a wrong perception about this, that seems it like it's a total restriction on them. They can choose not to. If, take for instance, let me also give an instance again. I have a project I want to do, and I've been sending that money. Perhaps I feel that my country is better to secure my money than my place of residence. And I've been sending that money in a piecemeal. Let's assume it's $1 million project. And I've been sending 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, and being warehoused in any of our commercial bank accounts here. And right now, CBN says any transaction of this nature by these international money transfer operators will be terminated in Naira, meaning I will have an instant value of my dollar equivalent or pounds equivalent money I have sent. Immediately it will no longer be. So the savings will no longer be in that British pounds or dollar. So it will not be in Naira. It means also that it may deter me. If I'm living in US, say, okay, if I cannot have my money saved in that currency I'm sending it, let me keep it over there until I return home. So that is that perception I'm saying. So it may also have its own negative effect in the inflows. We may even have a negative backlash on this, in the sense that it will deter these diasporans from sending, because they think, okay, let me keep it until when I'm coming back. Thank you.
Well said, Mr. Steve, especially where you talk about, the perception rather from, diasporans, especially when, they're thinking of probably sending money back to Nigeria. But I'd like for us to talk about compliance measures. You've talked to how compliant Nigerians in diaspora might be about this directive. But I'd like for us to talk specifically about compliance expected from deposit money banks and international money transfer operators. This switch over, are they expected to face any form of challenges regarding this new directive?
I think CBN will have to personally, give us an overview of what they have done. But I know that CBN is ready now to open their portal so that they can have access, because this is a question of balancing accounts. Ordinarily, I balance within the two parties. Now the CBN is involved. It means that immediately there is an inflow of cash. Nwachukwu must send money to Chukwude, and Chukwude gets to MoneyGram, which is through the First Bank or any of the commercial banks, and gets there. It means that the MoneyGram will immediately credit CBN, so that CBN can credit Naira to them right away, because that's the termination we are talking about, so that MoneyGram will have value immediately, and Chukwude, who receives the money, will have value right away. So there should be some link, which I know is in existence. It's just a question of making it more robust, so that these international money transfer operators can easily access those portals and be able to conduct their services on transactions seamlessly. So I believe there is such portal, and it will be seamless in this very regards. But ordinarily, before now, it means that I don't need CBN. What I need is to have that very cash on Naira to pay such individual who is coming to receive that very equivalent, either in dollar or in Naira. So it means that I don't have any involvement. I don't have any link to CBN or any contact to start reaching out, so that I can have an equivalent Naira value of what I'm trying to transact on. So before now, you don't need CBN to conduct or conclude any transaction. But right now, you may definitely need CBN for some level of perhaps liquidity, in the sense that CBN is now going to warehouse that very forex. It's simply that's what it simply means, that CBN will warehouse whatever inflows, because it's just what CBN intends to get here is the diaspora who sends this money is the owner of the money, but as it lands in the shores of Nigeria, it becomes a property of the federal government of Nigeria or Federal Republic of Nigeria. You, the operator, you, the international money transfer agent, lay your hands off conclude this transaction on Nigerian currency. You cannot warehouse these dollars anymore. That's it. What it simply means. CBN have taken away whatever they want to warehouse and find another market or another avenues to exchange these very currencies. So what it means that CBN.
We seem to have lost our guest Steve Nwachukwu, who was speaking to issues around the recent directive by the Central Bank of Nigeria asking international money transfer operators and deposit money banks to, issue money from diasporans in Naira. I believe we have Mr. Steve back now with us. Mr. Steve, just before we go, we want to hear from you. What sort of message does this pass, especially to investors? Does this pass a message of confidence in the Nigerian business space? Or does this pass a message of regulatory bottlenecks and, the CBN playing the middleman in a transaction from the diaspora? What sort of message does this pass to investors across the world?
Well, ordinarily it should serve or it should pass a very good message that yes, the government is in charge and the government is doing everything to make sure they galvanize these resources and give some sense of stability and sanity in our exchange market. But on the other hand, it will also send a signal or sense of unstable because of the nature of our unstable exchange market. Take for instance, I have a project that is going to last for 8 months, for 1 year, and you are mandating me to have an immediate terminate this very transaction at the current NAFEM price or rate. It means that I had value to that very foreign currency or to that money I've sent. So the project will be on in the next 1 year. And perhaps the NAFEM rate that was used, let's assume is 1,500, and now is by next 8 months, my project is still running. In next 8 months, the NAFEM rate is now 1,800 or 1,900. So that is the sense of unstable decisions for such investor, in the sense that he knows and he understands that in the last 1-2 years our exchange market has not been stable, so most of them also play along because of the instability of our exchange market. By now, what this means is that you have restricted them and you have given them a terminating rate. So whatever volume, whatever size of money they are bringing in, they can't keep half of the dollar and say, oh, in the next 4 months, while the project is going on, I will go ahead and exchange more. In the next 4 months, what the project will be. So on the one hand, you have taken away that very preferential or that judgment of, oh, that expectation they will have more value in the next 6 months or next 8 months to the inflows of their currency. On the other hand, also, CBN have also saved them from any possible risk.
Thank you, Steve Nwachukwu, for all the insight you've shared with us on today's edition of Business Daily. Well appreciated.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And this is where we draw the curtains on today's edition of Business Daily. Join the conversation on social media and let us hear your thoughts on the discourse for today. My name is Chiamaka Enendu. Thank you for watching and bye for now.